Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Going Places with Abu Micah. I'm very excited because this is the first video that I'm recording from Canada. I finally landed here about 8 days ago. 8 days ago. Landed here with my family. We traveled from Dubai. So in this video, I'm just going to share, that experience, how that went. And also, I want to share some tips and advice for anyone who is planning to land in Canada during this pandemic phase. Okay, so I'm going to talk about soft landing for those who are considering coming here just for the purpose of activating their PR, and also about quarantine plans and some of the ways in which your landing experience and your first 2 weeks in Canada will be affected by this pandemic and how to prepare for that. So stay tuned. Now, it's unprecedented what is happening in the world today because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's no longer business as usual at airports, with airlines, with immigration and border officials, because of measures that different governments have put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19. Now, traveling to Canada is no longer as simple as just booking a flight and showing up at the airport with your passport and visa and then just flying to Canada. But there are some additional requirements that you have to meet in order to be deemed eligible to travel to Canada. Now, in terms of the government of Canada, the government has been very clear in terms of who is allowed to enter and who cannot. If you want to travel to Canada during this time, you have to meet these 4 requirements. Number 1, you must be traveling for an essential purpose. An essential purpose, one example is like if you are traveling in order to land as a permanent resident, that is considered non-optional, that is considered non-discretionary. So things like going to visit family, friends, tourism, sightseeing, religious travel, those are not considered essential travel. That's something that you can postpone to the future. But as a approved permanent residence applicant, you've got a time limit in terms of when you have to travel to Canada and the like. So it's not considered optional travel. So secondly, you have to be traveling for an essential purpose. You have to be also exempt from the travel restrictions. Okay, now the government of Canada has put a very long list of travel restrictions and exemptions, right, to show who can travel and who cannot. This information is available on the government of Canada's website. I'll put a link in the description. It's also been transmitted to IATA, so every airline will be aware of the transit restrictions, the travel restrictions, the entry restrictions, and the exemptions. Okay, so if you want to travel to Canada, you have to self-identify at the airport to the airline, and then the airline will check in the system to see whether you meet the requirements for entry or not. Okay, so you don't need any special permission from an embassy or anything written down, because the government of Canada has already published the regulations. Thirdly, you must have a self-quarantine plan for 14 days. Okay, you must show the government of Canada where you're going to isolate for 14 days and how you're going to access your necessities, groceries, medicines, and the like. Okay, then fourthly, you must be asymptomatic of COVID-19. If you're showing any symptoms of COVID-19, you will not be allowed to board a flight to Canada. Okay, so those are the requirements which you have to meet if you want to land in Canada at this time. Okay, so when you board your flight, you have to show those 4 things, and then you'll be allowed to to fly to Canada. Yes, Mrs. Abu is here. Come, say hi.
Hi.
Micah, come and say hi, everyone. Yes, so this is Mrs. Abu. She's never featured in my videos, but anyway, now she's a Canadian permanent resident. How do you feel, Mrs. Abu?
Oh, it's an exhilarating feeling. It's nice. It's been a long journey, and when COVID started, we sort of lost hope. We didn't know if we were going to land in Canada or not, but finally we managed to land in Canada, and here we are.
Okay, and how are you enjoying the quarantine, self-isolation period? How is it for you?
There is hope that it's gonna come to an end. I'm hopeful. I'm happy. It looks so nice outside from here. So
Even though you can't go outside.
Even though I can't go outside. Well, by law we are not supposed to leave our premises. So yeah, we have to be here 6 more days to go, right?
Yeah.
So I can't wait to go outside, just to move around, see Toronto, and have fun.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
That's it.
that's Mrs. Abu. I don't know what else you want to say.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, this is my wife. Mostly it's Micah who is featured on the videos, but anyway, she wanted to just say hi. So I was talking about flying, and now I'll talk about our flight experience. We flew Emirates. We're very happy when they announced that they were going to fly twice a week to Toronto, so we booked a flight. We sent a lot of emails back and forth, with the Canadian embassy, because we wanted clarification, because there was so much confusion. I remember when I called Emirates, the call center the first time, they told me that you have to be a Canadian citizen. And then another one said you have to be a citizen or permanent resident. Another one said, no, those flights are cancelled. So there was so much confusion, and I sought clarification from the Canadian embassy, and all emails that they sent me, I printed them and put all the communication with IRCC and with Canadian embassy in a file. And, so that in case, I face trouble at the airport, I'll be able to show that, hey, this is what the embassy has said. This is what's on the Government of Canada's website. I am eligible to travel. I'm traveling for an essential purpose. This is my quarantine plan, and I'm not, I'm not symptomatic of COVID-19. So when we arrived at the airport like 5 a.m. and check-in was okay. They just checked our temperature and everything, and then we went to the check-in area. So there they then asked for our quarantine plan, our PR visa, and then they confirmed with Canada Border Service Agency. They made a quick call, and then they were told what to ask from us. So they asked for our quarantine plan. We showed them our printed Airbnb booking with our names on it, and then also we showed our our PR visas and our passports. They are valid and everything, so they allowed us to check in. So we checked in, we flew to Canada. The flight was okay. It was socially distanced. I think we were almost, maybe not more than 90 passengers on a whole Boeing 777. Then when we landed, we had to fill in COVID-19 declaration forms showing the address where we're going to self-quarantine for 14 days. And then also we had to fill in the usual customs declaration, any goods to follow, things like that. And we went through passport control in the new immigrant section within like 20-25 minutes at most. There weren't too many people when we landed at Toronto Pearson Airport. So basically what happens at the airport is that you have to first go through passport control. Now this is for those who want to do a soft landing. When you land at the airport, like when we landed, you go from the plane, right? Now in every airport there will always be a place where there will always be like a passport control section, but if you're not entering the country, then you don't go to passport control. You go to your maybe a domestic connection or whatever, or international connection, right? So some passengers were transiting to USA, so they went to the international connection section, but the rest of us had to go to passport control, and that's where they check your visa, they check your your quarantine plan, and then so they checked our passports, and then they cancelled the that entry visa, because remember that entry visa, it's a single entry, so they will cancel it and stamp entry, so you've used it and you can't use it anymore. Now you're then supposed to go to the new immigrant section. So that landing that passport control took maybe like 5 minutes or less, and then we were directed to the new immigrant section where we were processed. At the new immigrant section, the officer asked for our COPR documents and our passports, so I gave all of the documents, and then he asked some statutory questions that are on the COPR document itself. He asked, like, have you ever been convicted of any crime? Have you ever been refused entry into Canada or denied entry to Canada? Have you ever been asked? Have you ever been removed from Canada? Things like that. So those questions will be on the COPR document, He asked those questions, we answered the questions, and then he directed us to sit in another area and wait for our turn to be called. So when so we spent about, that was a very, very, very intense moment. We spent probably about 10 minutes waiting, and then he called me and said, okay, he gave me the COPR documents, and he said, he showed me where to sign. So I was supposed to sign my COPR document and the copy, and then my son's COPR document and the copy, and then he called my wife to sign her copy of the COPR document and the officer's copy, and then that was it. We are now permanent residents of Canada. And he said the exit is over there. It's like, okay, so done. I thought I was going to ask a lot of things. Where you're going to quarantine? Do you have any proof of funds and all of those things? But he gave us our documents. We went to baggage control. To baggage claim, claimed our bags, and then we had to then get a taxi and go to our place of quarantine. Yeah, we have to also pass through customs, right? After baggage control, there's customs, where you have to declare anything that you are carrying, that you have to declare, and that's where they'll ask how much cash you are carrying. Okay, so that's mainly for passport control. That's where they'll ask, are you carrying cash in excess of 10,000 Canadian dollars or equivalent, right? So after that, we went to, we had some US dollars, so we had to change the money in the airport, but not all of it, because airport rates are crazy. Okay, so that was the travel experience, that was the landing experience. And well, can you travel to another destination in Canada? Let's say, for example, because Canada right now has got 4 international airports that are open. There's Montreal, Toronto Pearson, Calgary, and Vancouver. Those are the only 4 international airports that are operating right now for international flights. All the other airports, like Hamilton Airport, Edmonton Airport, they are only handling domestic flights. So if you want to quarantine, let's say in Edmonton, but you landed at Toronto Pearson Airport, you can still board a flight to Edmonton as long as you're not like leaving the airport, and if your quarantine address is in Edmonton. Okay, so if your quarantine address is in Calgary and then you want to book a flight to Edmonton, then you'll be in violation of quarantine rules. So if you want to quarantine another city, you have to give them a quarantine address in that city, and then you book your onward flight to the destination. But when you land at let's say Edmonton, then you have to go to your place of quarantine. Okay, now in terms of soft landing, from my assessment at Toronto Pearson Airport, it's not possible to do a soft landing, because you have to first enter Canada, and when you enter Canada, you have to give a quarantine address. So how are you going to then fly out of the country on the same day if you have already given an address to say, this is where I'm going to quarantine? See, it's not going to be possible. But if you then say, okay, I'm going to, if you land and then you say, okay, I don't have a quarantine plan because I'm going back, then they'll say your purpose of travel is discretionary and you won't be allowed to enter Canada. Even the airline in the country of departure will not allow you to enter Canada or to get on a flight to Canada if you tell them that I don't have a quarantine plan because I'm just going to return. They'll say your purpose of travel is discretionary. Okay, so make sure you take note of that. In terms of some things that you have to note, Service Canada is closed. They are not accepting any in-person applications, so you have to apply online, or you have to send your documents by post. Okay, so if you send your documents by post, that you are sending your original passport, your original COPR document, and you have to give a return address. Then but if you apply online, you need a proof of address, so you need like a bank account, you need something like that, bank account or lease agreement or something like that. So there are a lot of inconveniences that have to do with COVID-19. Also, important, I had to get this. I faced a lot of inconveniences because I didn't have a travel adapter. In Canada we use sockets that are like this. I hope it's visible, right? So you may have, for example, like my laptop has got these kind of plugs, but then you won't be able to find sockets with 3-pin sockets like this in Canada. So I had to buy a travel adapter on Amazon, and with this, then I could use my laptop here. That's part of the reason why I couldn't upload a video, because I didn't have any way to any means of editing and doing all of these things. So yeah, I hope this information has been useful. I will like I promised, I will continue with the series that I've been doing on the documents, and also talk a little bit more about the landing and the quarantine and things like that. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video. I normally like to keep my videos short, but hey, this is a new experience. So thank you so much. Please subscribe, hit the notifications button so that you don't miss out on the next video. Thank you very much. Stay blessed, stay safe.